In the quiet corners of crowded rooms, a smile can arrive perfectly on time, while something deeper remains unspoken. Eyes meet, words flow, laughter rises. Yet beneath the surface, a private tide moves in the opposite direction. People who hide their true emotions do not merely withhold, they curate. They shape the air around them into something softer, safer, more acceptable, believing that the raw pulse of what they feel might disturb the fragile balance of connection. This is not deception in the ordinary sense. It is an ancient, tender act of protection offered first to others and almost always at a hidden cost to the self. What begins as care slowly teaches the heart its own silence. Look closely, and the signs are everywhere. A woman stands at the edge of a birthday party, cheeks lifted in perfect symmetry while her fingers tighten around a glass of water no one notices. She has not sipped. A man nods through a meeting, voice steady, eyes attentive, yet the pulse in his throat beats faster than the conversation requires. A teenager laughs at a joke that lands like gravel in the chest, then looks away too quickly, as if the laugh itself might betray him. These are not dramatic performances. They are quiet, exquisite calibrations. The smile arrives on cue, the voice stays level. The body leans forward just enough to signal interest, never enough to reveal tremor. To the outside eye, everything is seamless. To the person inside, the effort is constant. This is the moment of recognition, the realization that hiding emotion has become so refined. It no longer feels like hiding. It feels like breathing. The face has learned to range itself before thought arrives. The throat has learned to swallow before the lump can rise. The heart, over years of careful training, has learned to beat quietly, politely, at a volume no one else can hear. People who master this art often do not know they are wearing a mask. They believe this is simply who they are. Calm, reasonable, considerate, strong. They have spent so long translating their inner weather into acceptable weather for others that the original forecast is forgotten. Anger becomes silence. Grief becomes a soft "I'm okay." Fear becomes a joke delivered with perfect timing. Love sometimes becomes distance, because distance feels safer than the risk of needing too much. Watch them in ordinary light. See how effortlessly they deflect concern. "I'm fine. Really, don't worry. It's nothing." Each phrase delivered with the gentle certainty of truth. Yet something flickers, almost imperceptible, a half second too long in the gaze, a breath held a fraction longer than necessary. The way the shoulders lift and settle as if setting down an invisible weight. They have become fluent in a language that has no word for what they actually feel. They can describe the weather, the traffic, the details of someone else's day with luminous precision. But when the question turns inward, the sentences shorten, the eyes drift. The topic changes like a tide pulling back from shore. This fluency is not cold. It is warm with effort. Every smoothed edge is an act of love, or what they were taught love must look like. They do not want to burden. They do not want to disrupt. They do not want the room to grow awkward because their sorrow has entered it uninvited. So they absorb, they translate, they carry. And in carrying alone, they begin to disappear. Not all, at once, slowly. Like ink diluting in water, the color of the self grows paler until one day they look in the mirror and wonder whose calm face is looking back. The mask no longer feels borrowed. It feels like skin, and skin, once grown, is not so easily removed. This is where the story truly begins, not in the dramatic moment of collapse, but in the quiet, daily astonishment of realizing that the face presented to the world has become more familiar than the one beneath. It starts earlier than memory can name. A child cries in the night and is told, gently, repeatedly, "It's okay, go back to sleep." A small boy scrapes his knee and is praised for not making a fuss. A little girl is told her anger is ugly, that nice girls don't shout that big. Feelings make people leave. These are not cruel moments. They are ordinary. They are delivered with love, with exhaustion, with the best of intentions. They are the inheritance of generations who believed that survival depended on emotional regulation, on not taking up too much space, on keeping the peace at any cost. In some homes, silence is safety. Loud emotion danger, appearance, rage, a slammed door, the unpredictable storm of adult feelings that made the air unsafe to breathe. So the child learns, if I stay quiet, I stay safe. If I make myself small, I will not be hurt. If I smile when I am scared, the world will smile back. In other homes, silence is duty. Feelings are private. Complaints are selfish. Tears are manipulative. The child who dares to feel too loudly is corrected, shamed, or simply ignored until the message is clear. Emotions are currency, and spending them carelessly makes you poor in love. Culture widens the lesson. Some societies revere stoicism as virtue. Some families measure worth by how little trouble a person causes. Some religions teach that suffering is noble when borne without complaint. The child absorbs it all like oxygen. To need is to be needy. To feel deeply is to be dramatic. To reveal pain is to be weak. By the time language is fluent, the body already knows the rules. The shoulders learn to rise and fall evenly. The jaw learns to unclench just enough. The eyes learn to soften even when the chest is collapsing inward. And because these lessons arrive wrapped in affection, a hand stroking hair, a proud yaw. So brave, a relieved sea, nothing to cry about. The child does not experience them as violence. They experience them as love. They learn that love and concealment are the same thing. They learn that being good means being quiet about what hurts. So the pattern sets like bone, long before the mind can name it. The nervous system has decided the safest way to stay connected is to disconnect from the feeling. Self. The heart learns to whisper so no one will hear it break. The body keeps precise records, every swallowed sob, every forced smile, every line fine delivered through clenched teeth is logged in the nervous system like a quiet debt. Polyvagal theory maps the cost when true emotion is suppressed. The vagus nerve, the ancient regulator of safety and connection, remains in a state of partial freeze. The social engagement system stays online, smile, nod, speak, but the deeper ventral vagal tone, the warmth of authentic presence, is withheld. The body performs connection while remaining, on a cellular level, braced for abandonment. Cortisol lingers longer than it should. The amygdala, scanning for threat, never fully stands down because the original threat was never named aloud. Over time, baseline stress hormones rise. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of emotional naming, grows quieter while the older, faster limbic system takes the wheel. fMRI studies of chronic suppressors show reduced activity in the insula, the brains. Bridge between bodily sensation and conscious feeling, they literally feel less, not because they are numb by nature, but because the pathway has been trained out of use. The body, efficient as ever, stops sending signals it has learned will be ignored. Meanwhile, the mirror neuron system still functions perfectly. They read others' emotions with exquisite accuracy. They know exactly when someone needs reassurance, space, or a joke. They become masterful caretakers, human barometers of everyone else's weather. But their own internal signals grow faint, like a radio station drifting out of range. Alexithymia often follows not the inability to feel, but the inability to find words for what is felt. The dictionary of the heart has been quietly closed, and beneath it all, the attachment system remains in a state of anxious vigilance, because the original lesson was clear. If I show you the full truth of me, you might leave. So the body stays half ready to run, half ready to fight, and fully committed to pretending it is neither. This is not pathology, it is adaptation, a brilliant, heartbreaking survival strategy that once kept a child safe, and now keeps an adult lonely in rooms full of people who believe they are known. Inside the same body, two currents move in opposite directions. One longs to be seen, to rest, to let truth spill without editing. The other stands guard, certain that any crack in the surface will invite rejection, ridicule, or the slow withdrawal of love. The conflict is exhausting because it is silent. No one hears the argument. The person themselves may only feel it as alone. Constant fatigue, a sense that something is missing even when everything appears intact. They want closeness, yet every step toward it triggers alarm. A friend asks, "How are you, really?" And the throat tightens. A partner reaches for the hand. and the body stiffens almost imperceptibly. They crave understanding, yet the moment understanding draws near, the old reflex rises, protect, deflect, perform. Anger is the hardest to hold. It turns inward first, comes self-criticism, perfectionism, a quiet contempt for one's own needs. Sadness follows, cooling in the body as tension headaches, clenched jaws, shoulders that never quite relax. Joy, even joy, is rationed. Too much of it feels dangerous, as if happiness might be punished later. They watch others express freely and feel a strange envy mixed with disdain. How do they do that? How can they risk it? Don't they know what happens when you let the feeling out? Yet in secret moments, alone in the car or the shower, the tears come sudden and shocking, as if the body has been waiting years for permission. The loneliness is precise. It is not the absence of people, it is the absence of being witnessed. They sit at dinner tables, surrounded by laughter, and feel like a ghost wearing their own face. They give the perfect gift, say the perfect thing, and still go home to an ache that has no name. Sometimes the war leaks out sideways, sudden irritation at small things, a sharp tone that surprises everyone, a withdrawal that feels like punishment to others but protection to the self. Afterwards comes guilt, apology, another layer of effort to smooth everything over. The cycle tightens. They do not hate the mask. They are grateful to it. It has kept them safe, employable, loved in the only way they believed love was possible. To remove it feels like stepping into a storm with no coat. Better to be tired than destroyed. So the quiet war continues. One part of the soul knocks gently on the inside of the chest, asking to be let out. The other part stands at the door, hand on the lock, whispering, "Not yet, not here, maybe never." Then comes a moment that was never planned. A question asked too softly, a song that arrives at the wrong time, a hand placed on the back without warning. Something ordinary cracks the surface, and the feeling rises faster than the reflex can catch it. Asterisk, a tear slips before the smile can form. The voice wavers on a single word. The body forgets its training for one breath to breaths, and the truth is suddenly there in the room, naked and trembling. In that instant, time slows. They wait for the disaster, the awkward silence, the step back, the slow cooling of affection. But sometimes, more often than memory allowed itself to hope, the disaster does not come instead. A friend leans closer. A partner's eyes soften. Someone says, quietly, "I see you." The air does not collapse, the floor holds, the feared abandonment does not arrive. These moments are small, a held gaze that lasts a second longer, a hand that does not pull away, a silence that feels like listening instead of judgment. They are not cinematic breakthroughs, they are cracks of light, yet something shifts. The nervous system registers a new data point, expression, then safety, feeling, then connection. The ancient equation begins to loosen. Asterisk, not all moments end gently. Some do end in withdrawal, in the very rejection the mask was built to prevent. But even those carry information. The pain of rejection is sharp, but survivable. And the pain of perpetual hiding has its own slow blade, slowly, almost imperceptibly. The risk begins to feel worth it. The body remembers that tears can fall and the world still turn. That anger can be spoken carefully and not burn every bridge. That need, when offered with trembling honesty, is sometimes met with tenderness instead of burden. The turning point is never a single scene. It is 1,000 small ones, accumulated like quiet kindnesses. It is the first time, actually, "I'm not okay" leaves the mouth and is answered with "Tell me more." It is the first time the shoulders drop without checking who is watching. It is the beginning of trust, not in others alone, but in the possibility that the feeling self might be bearable, might even be lovable, exactly as it is. Healing does not demand the mask be torn off in one violent motion. It asks only for gradual permission. A sentence offered honestly today, a boundary spoken tomorrow, a tear allowed to fall without immediate apology. Asterisk, safety is rebuilt in increments. Certain runes become practice grounds, a therapist's office, a late-night call with one trusted friend, the pages of a journal that never judges. In these spaces, the voice learns new tones. The body learns that trembling is not always followed by shame. Others join the circle slowly. Not everyone can hold the weight of another's truth, and that is information too. But some can, some have. Been waiting, sometimes for years, to be invited closer. The nervous system relents in its own ancient language. Heart rate slows when honesty is met with warmth. Shoulders soften when tears are met with presence. The vagus nerve, so long braced, begins to settle into ventral column not just during performance, but during truth. Expression remains imperfect. Old habits rise like tides. There are days when the mask slides back on without thinking, days when fear wins. But the difference is this: the mask is now recognized as mask. It can be adjusted, loosened, set aside when the room feels safe. The feeling self grows louder, not in volume but in clarity. Emotions arrive with names attached. Hunger is distinguished from loneliness, anger from hurt. Joy is allowed to take up space without immediate suspicion. Asterisk relationships deepen or gently end. Some cannot expand to hold the fuller person emerging. Others bloom, surprised by the new intimacy possible. When one person stops translating and simply speaks, the body, for so long a vigilant guard, begins to rest. Sleep improves, digestion eases, the jaw unclenches in the night. Chronic tension loosens its ancient grip, not all at once, but enough to notice. And in quiet moments alone, the person sometimes cries, not from sorrow now, but from the strange. Tender relief of feeling the full weather of the self and discovering that the sky has not fallen. What remains is not a person stripped bare for all to see, but a person who has remembered the right to choose. Some parts stay private, wisely. Others are offered, carefully, like small gifts. The heart, once trained to whisper, discovers it can speak at normal volume and still be heard. It discovers that love, true love, does not require silence as payment. It discovers that being fully felt does not make a person heavy, sometimes it makes them lighter. Asterisk in the end, the greatest freedom is not loud. It is the quiet permission to feel whatever is there, sorrow, rage, joy, fear, without needing to fix it or hide it before it can breathe. An unhidden heart is not flawless. It is simply present. It trembles, it softens, it risks, and in that risk, it meets the world not as performance but as offering. The beauty is gentle, a person who can say this hurts and stay in the room, who can say I need you and believe the need will not destroy, who can sit in silence that is shared rather than protective. They have not become someone else. They have remembered who they were before the lessons in silence began. The child, who felt everything is still there, older now and finally allowed to speak. And in allowing that voice, they discover the deepest truth of all. The emotions once hidden out of fear were never the problem. The problem was the belief that they had to be hidden to be loved. When that belief softens, everything else follows. Not perfectly, not all at once, but enough for the heart to open, one careful breath at a time, into a life no longer curated, but lived.